let me know. Sorry about that. Okay, let's get started. Our opening guest today is going to tell us all about what's happening on Capitol Hill, live from Capitol Hill. It's Ron Hammond, the Director of Government Relations at the Blockchain Association. Ron, we're going to switch over to you on the screen, and then you can give us a scoop. Hold just 1 second.
Sounds good. Just let me know when he's ready for me to go.
You're good to go.
All right, sounds good. Hey everyone, Ron Hammond here at I guess the House side, actually next to Congressman McHenry's office, of all things. So is the big day FIT 21. That's the market structure bill, as well as the CBDC bill, ban bill from Representative Emmer. We expect the date to begin around noonday, and then around 4:30 or so, probably around 4:45, 5, we'll see the vote for FIT 21. We had a couple calls this morning. It's looking pretty good. I gotta be honest. We're kind of shocked in terms of just like how much political pressure is starting to work here when it comes to at least getting a lot more of the Democrats comfortable with FIT 21. There's a CFTC briefing going on with Chair Benham as we speak right now with a variety of members talking about why the CFTC supports the legislation, which is a complete counter to what we saw from the SEC this morning, which came out very aggressively against FIT 21. So not as shocking there of a development, but we are starting to see a lot of folks pivot away from the SEC's messaging lines here is that the status quo is fine, and it's really starting to have some impact here. I think the thing we're kind of holding our breath for right is the White House. The White House, there's been some rumors that they might issue a veto threat or a state administrative policy. There are some other rumors going around that they will say everything besides we will veto this. It's unclear, but it does seem that the White House will be making a statement on FIT 21 potentially in the next couple hours. So, just some things to flag for folks. As actually, if you recall for SAB 121, we got that veto threat about 2-3 days before the actual votes. And, we're a couple hours now away from the vote. We still haven't heard anything from the White House, which I think shows the current dynamics right now and the splinter within the Democrat Party with when it comes to crypto and crypto regulation generally. And obviously we've seen a lot with the ETH ETF recently. Looks like that's some political pressure finally, showing forward. So I don't want to start celebrating too early here by any means, but the vibes are good here, at least on the House side. We do not expect much traction, unfortunately, though, for FIT 21 in the Senate. Barring 100+ Democrat support, which is in the realm of possibility right now. Especially if we get Nancy Pelosi as a yes, it just seems like that might be the case. We could be looking at really significant bipartisan support. The issue is that the Senate really hasn't had any hearings on crypto market structure regulation. There is the Lemons Gillibrand bill, which is vastly different than what FIT 21 is. And also it's election year and Congress has not much time left to do anything. And I think we'll still see stablecoins likely come up in the near term. So expect a lot more drama probably next couple hours when it comes to whatever the White House says. And we're looking forward to it. But I think my vote count right now for Democrats is around 50. Earlier in the week, I'm now bumped up at 60 at the current moment. Again, that's just my personal opinion. I've heard everything ranging from 40 Democrats to 100 Democrats. So, and for the Republicans, I think we'll have most of them on board except for 1 or 2. So I'll pause there for any folks that have any questions, but that's just kind of the latest here on the ground and on the Hill.
It's a great update, Ron. Thank you very much. So for the room, anybody have any questions? We have a mic in the back there. I've got a roving mic here. I can run it to you if that one's not convenient. So anybody have a question for Ron? Okay. I don't see any questions, Ron. So, hey, thank you. Go back to doing the good work. We appreciate everything you've done. It's really incredible. So yeah, we're going to hopefully celebrate today.
Sounds good.
All right. Take care.
Well, there's a celebration at Hawk and Dove on the Hill, so y'all are more than welcome. Hope to see y'all there.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, let's carry on. BA has another update for us. The Blockchain Association has been doing a ton of work on the legal side, and Laura Sanders, Policy Counsel, is going to give us an update there. So we're going to put you on the screen. There we go. Okay, go for it. You're on.
Hi, everyone. I know everyone's excited about Fit 21 today, but thank you for indulging a quick update from us on the litigation front. As Paul mentioned, my name's Laura Sanders. I'm policy counsel at the Blockchain Association. So last month, BA filed its first lawsuit ever alongside the Crypto Freedom Alliance of Texas against the SEC. And the lawsuit challenges the dealer rule, which is a rule expanding the definition of dealer as it's used in the Securities Act of 1934. Essentially, the lawsuit alleges that the SEC is attempting to expand its jurisdictional reach outside the outline set for it by Congress and failed to follow the procedural rules that are mandated of federal agencies when they are promulgating new rules to ensure that they are taking into consideration the effect of the new proposed rulemaking on affected parties. And sort of the bottom line on the dealer rule is that if it is if it goes forward without being struck down by the court, it will really evaporate liquidity in the digital asset market and drive the industry overseas. So our update is that we filed our motion for summary judgment on Friday. And I really encourage anyone who's interested to go look at that filing. It's available on BA's website. And it really lays out our arguments in a very complete and detailed way. The government is going to have an opportunity to file an opposition next month on June 26th. So I maybe can come back and give an update at that point. But our ultimate goal is to have a decision and to have the rule overturned by December of this year. So please stay tuned. These APA cases move fairly quickly. So there should be a lot of action on this over the summer. So I'm sure I'll be back to discuss it, but thank you guys for letting us update you on this.
Thank you. Okay. Well, so we're hitting them on all fronts. That's great. Thank you, Laura, for the update. Now let's move on. We have an amazing agenda today, some really good speakers. And Jake Chervinsky, former Blockchain Association head of policy, is here to give us an update in his new role at Variant. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right.
Okay. Would love to hear your thoughts on this environment right now and from where you sit in your new position.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Paul, for inviting me. And it is a pleasure to speak after my former Blockchain Association colleagues. As Paul mentioned, I did want to give a personal update. I do have a new job since I spoke with most of you. I moved on from the Blockchain Association very sadly last fall, and am now Chief Legal Officer at Variant, which is an early stage venture capital firm focused entirely on crypto. Thankfully, we are members of the Blockchain Association, so I still get to work with the amazing folks over there. And of course, I'm also on the board of the DeFi Education Fund, as you all may know. So still very close to the policy world. I'm sorry for not being there in person. I unfortunately came down with a cold over the last few days. So if I lose my voice in the next few minutes, then please forgive me for that. But as Paul said, what I'd like to do with my time is to give you my perspective and perhaps a bit of the industry perspective on the Financial Innovation and Technology for the 21st Century Act, Fit 21, since of course that is the news of the day. And I'm very happy to be here speaking with you on such a big day. So let me tell you first a little bit of my view on the context of where we are on the day that we're seeing the House vote on Fit 21. A few thoughts on the bill itself, and then some thoughts on sort of where we go from here. So starting out with sort of the context, where are we in the world of crypto policy on the day that the House is, it seems, going to have an overwhelmingly positive bipartisan vote in favor of this market structure bill? I have to say, it feels really good. It feels like we are finally starting to win the political battle. We're winning hearts and minds in Washington, D.C. in favor of crypto. in a way that we really haven't before. And this vote comes on the heels of a few other really important political victories worth mentioning. The most important is probably the SAB 121 vote. So the first crypto-specific bill ever to go through Congress, which was a very direct rebuke to the way that the Securities and Exchange Commission has been regulating this industry, and passed with 21 House Democrats and passed the Senate with a margin of 60 votes, something that even the most optimistic in the crypto world did not expect to happen. And that was a huge signal, I think, in favor of the industry. Similarly, we saw former President Trump come out with a very explicitly pro-crypto statement, really putting the crypto issue into this presidential election in a way that it hadn't been before. He was very explicit in saying, if you're pro-crypto, vote for Trump. And it seems that may have raised some interest among the Biden camp. And perhaps that's one of the reasons that we saw at least some hint that it's possible the SEC is pivoting on its views on the spot Ether ETF, which many of us are now expecting to be approved tomorrow as opposed to denied. So that would be another really huge political victory for us in crypto. And similarly, polls of swing state voters are showing this issue is extremely important. And we're even seeing some decline in the power of our chief antagonists, where we see the drama around FDIC Chair Marty Gruenberg, who was supported by Elizabeth Warren, but then it seems others, including Sherrod Brown, have broken from her in a way that seems like the anti-crypto army is really losing some steam. So the context for today's vote, I think, really is an extraordinarily positive, much more positive than we've seen since the collapse of FTX, regulatory and political environment for crypto. So that's wonderful to see. As a result of all of that, as Ron was saying earlier, it does seem like we are expecting FIT21 to pass the House very comfortably with significant bipartisan support. And it's really hard to overstate what a huge political victory that will be for all of us. It does deserve celebration. That's for a couple reasons. One is it's just huge validation for the industry as a whole. We've been pushing up against this view, particularly among Democrats, that passing any legislation specific to crypto is a mistake because it will legitimize the industry, and that's not something that they want to do. And having this bill, an extraordinarily important market structure bill, pass the House with Democratic support, that shows a strong rebuttal to those who say crypto hasn't built anything worthy of regulation. Rather, it shows this technology is important enough and unique enough that it deserves its own regulatory framework. And that's an extraordinarily important message. This is also an extremely important rebuttal to those who say that the SEC already has crypto underhand, that the SEC has all the tools that it needs in order to regulate this industry, and that, they're just around the corner from defeating us all in court. And so no legislation is necessary. And of course, that is the message it seems the SEC is pushing on the Hill today to try to keep the number of Democrats who vote in favor of the bill down. The bill passing through the House shows that, in fact, that is not true. The SEC does not have the authority that it needs in order to regulate this industry. Digital assets are not simply securities that can be treated like all other securities. And this is a major question that Congress has to answer in terms of how digital assets should be regulated. So truly a monumental political victory for us seeing this bill get out of the House. So with that, let me say a few more words, though, about what comes next. And I'm going to risk saying the quiet part out loud, but I think it's important that we do talk about the policy of this bill in addition to the politics. And as much as this bill is a political victory, my view is it is not a policy victory. I think there are some really important flaws in this bill that it's important for us to discuss, even as we encourage the House to vote the bill through and to vote in favor of the bill. So let me explain a little bit of why I say this bill is not necessarily a policy victory. The first is, frankly, a fatal flaw, in my opinion, at the heart of this bill, one that is born of political reality and that I understand, but one that I'm not sure we want to accept as law, which is the bifurcation of crypto markets in the United States into one regulated by the SEC and another separate one regulated by the CFTC. The political reality has been that the SEC and the CFTC are fighting for jurisdiction over this technology. And it seemed the most expedient way to get a bill through Congress was to say, well, we won't pick one or the other or pick a new agency. We'll just divvy this up and give some jurisdiction to both. But that core assumption, that core concept of the bill leads to two entirely separate markets that cannot talk to each other, and most importantly, cannot talk to markets overseas. It is essentially the United States walling itself off from these borderless global markets, which should benefit from having a unified market across borders, a single, liquid, transparent, efficient market. And this bill abandons that idea in the name of political expediency. And I think we have to ask ourselves whether that is a compromise that we really want to make. If it is, there are also many issues specific to the bill that really are so many, it would be a mistake for me to try to go over all of them right now. But things like the strictness of the test for decentralization, which basically says we understand right now in 2024 very rigid metrics that are necessary for a network to be decentralized. And never again will those metrics change, and we will close off the idea of new innovation, new types of networks that have not yet been conceived, that might not fit this very strict definition, but in the name again of political expediency and compromise, will simply end innovation on that level going forward. I think that would be a huge mistake. And then just so many unanswered questions in the bill where the CFTC and the SEC are expected to engage in rulemaking. We have not really seen rulemaking come out very well from the agencies, as Laura was just saying. The Blockchain Association is suing over one, and there are many other rules that we've seen come out of these agencies that have been so deficient they've warranted litigation. And us opting into many more years of litigation over sole and joint rulemaking, I'm not sure will get us the regulatory clarity that we actually need. So I guess to close, what I would say is, if you ask me, do I want the House today to vote yes on FIT 21 and send it forward in the process? I would say absolutely yes. I want this bill to pass out of the House so the process can continue. But if you ask me, do I want this bill to go through the Senate as it's written and be signed by the president as it's written and become law? I would say, no, I don't. And I'm sharing this as my personal opinion, but I think that there are many listening who will feel the same way and know that today may not be the best time to make that statement. And again, this is why perhaps I'm saying the quiet part out loud. But I do think it's important to get this on the record, because as this bill moves forward in the Senate, I think we will start to hear many more objections to the substance of the bill. And I think we'll need to have a very important conversation, which sounds like, is now the moment that we want to compromise on a bill that we know is not very good or potentially not even workable? Or rather, at this moment when we are winning the political battle, when crypto is ascendant, when we have all these cases moving forward in court, when we have a consequential election coming up that could change the political calculus, would it be better not to compromise and instead to continue to fight? So those are my thoughts for today. And thanks again, Paul, for inviting me, and looking forward to seeing you all in person sometime soon in DC.
Jake, thank you so much for sharing that perspective today. I think it's super important for us to hear that. I personally very much agree with that sentiment, knowing that there's a lot of work to do, but I'm so happy about the progress we made and what we have to celebrate today. So I'll certainly be right there working with you. I know many of us here in this room all feel the same way. So thanks for your leadership and just calling out what we needed to remember today, because our work is not over. This is still very, very early in our fight. Are there any questions for Jake before we let him run? Okay, Jake, well, we hope you feel better. Thank you so much for joining us. And again, Thanks for your leadership. Oh, wait. We do have one. Hold.
So assuming that Fit 21 passes the House today, goes to the Senate, they'll make changes that will go through conference. So we have chances on improving this. What improvements would you like to see in the bill?
Yeah. I'm going to answer by not totally answering. I think the Blockchain Association is in the best position to lead that process. But I guess I'll just add two of my own thoughts. The first is, I really think we need to grapple with this question, whether we want to accept what I think, frankly, was a mistake in US financial regulation to begin with, which was the separation of financial markets regulation into two separate entities, the SEC and the CFTC. As we all know, this is not something that we see in basically any other developed market in the country. So when you go to the UK and you talk to the FCA about crypto regulation, they're not bound up in some turf war with another regulator. They're also not beholden to this artificial construct of distinguishing assets between being securities or being commodities or commodity derivatives. They can just treat crypto like crypto and write good, intelligent rules. And so, frankly, one potential alteration here would be to say, look, we're going to reject the core concept of bifurcating these markets. And instead, we're going to go back to what, frankly, the industry was advocating for most commonly before the Fit 21 structure came out, which was selecting a single regulator. Now, we've talked about that being the CFTC. If there was a well-meaning SEC, I think we could just as easily justify that. Maybe we need to go back to the drawing board and start thinking about a new agency or an SRO or something else. I don't know that this is a moment where we throw out all other ideas and just center on this bill, again, in the name of doing something fast that's politically viable today. But again, let's say I'm an idealist and that's not possible and we're stuck with this structure because that's how it is. I think we have to look really closely at, number one, can projects meet this decentralization test? And is it flexible enough to address innovation, right? New types of networks that we cannot conceive today that simply won't function the way that, those that today may benefit from a regulatory moat by satisfying these standards, are designed to do. And second, where are there gaps in the bill that we are waiting for the agencies to fill, either through the exercise of their discretion or through rulemaking? And how do we close those gaps so that Congress actually expresses its will instead of just delegating its authority to the agencies in a way that has caused us so many problems in the past? So those are the areas that I would focus on.
Thank you. And in terms of rulemaking, the SEC still hasn't finished the mandated rulemakings from Dodd-Frank from 10 years ago. So, and if you look at how they slow-walked crowdfunding, we definitely have problems in our regulatory system.
I couldn't agree more.
Hey, Jake. Hey, Jake, Kevin Bate, good to see you. And I couldn't agree with you more. And I appreciate you saying the quiet part out loud. And I guess I would just say to everybody, we should also think about saying the loud part quietly sometimes. I totally agree that we need to support this bill. And I agree that this bill has some major problems. And I think that we need to go about, assuming this bill passes and we get some momentum and maybe we get a more favorable administration in place, don't alienate the people who are trying to help us on the Hill, especially those that are well-intentioned that just maybe don't understand it the way as well as we do. The worst thing we could do is just blame somebody because they didn't get it right, as opposed to going in behind closed doors and explaining to them and getting them on side, because we need every friend we can get. And so be thoughtful about the criticism. And it's not people in this room, honestly, it's the crypto Twitter, it's the, or X, it's people who just sort of want to show how smart they are and say, oh, that bill's horrible, when the person who wrote the bill is actually trying to help industry and maybe they didn't get it quite right. So I just, we've got a lot to do, as Jake and Paul said, and let's be mindful of that.
I'll co-sign that and nothing to add.
Oh, one more. You got time or no? Yeah, sure. Can I do it in this one? No. Yeah. Okay. All right. Please.
Tell me when. Tell me when. I'm good. Okay. Hey, I'm Ian Kelly Thomas. I raise capital out in California. I'm here, and I appreciate the invite, Paul, and everybody for being here. It's a great event. What I'm hearing is there's a bit of it's a kind of a fundamental juncture, and there are always fundamental arguments in different places where you're dealing with technological innovation. One of them that I remember from physics was the wave and particle argument. Is light a wave or is it a particle? And in the end, everybody's like, oh yeah, both. Right. So what I'm hearing is, does it belong in the commodities exchange or does it belong somewhere else? And they're saying, well, if it's currency, it's a wave, right? And if it's a commodity, then it's a particle. And the kind of this side's, crypto's answer is both. It doesn't necessarily belong in one of those boxes. But I think, to your point about being sensitive to it, to argue all day long about whether it's one or the other isn't the point. And I think there is precedent available to point at in the derivatives market in terms of, the behavior of the quote unquote financial product. So I hope that's getting discussed somewhere by somebody. I'm not close enough to it. That's kind of why I'm here, to get closer to the policy understanding. So, but I really appreciate your presentation. Thank you.
Thanks, Ian. Thanks for coming out too, while you're here on the East Coast. Okay, I think that's got it for you, Jake. Appreciate it so much again. Hope you feel
Thank
better.
you. Take care.
Okay, let's move to a speaker in the room. We are very lucky to have Bill Hughes here, Senior Counsel and Director of Global Regulatory Matters at Consensus. So, Bill, I'm sure you can build on that and add a lot more to it. So please.
Good morning. Consensus is a software developer in the programmable blockchain space. First with Ethereum and then other EVM compatible chains. We were actually invited to the first PGP crypto meeting. And so, Paul, thank you so much for inviting me today and for all your efforts in putting these together. Paul asked that I come and talk a little bit about our lawsuit, Consensus v. Gary Gensler and the Securities Exchange Commission. We filed it last month in Fort Worth, where we're headquartered. And the crux of the lawsuit is that a federal judge should state unequivocally that based on the law and all the facts, Ether is a commodity, and that software tools like MetaMask, functions built into MetaMask, are not intermediaries such as to the extent that would require them to register as broker-dealers under the securities laws. So how do we get to where we are today? April 2022, maybe that was when these meetings around the time these meetings first started being held. I'd been with the company for maybe 9 months by that point, maybe a little bit longer. We received a letter from the Division of Enforcement at the Securities Exchange Commission asking that we voluntarily talk about our offering MetaMask, which is an unhosted wallet. We acquiesced, wrote them letters. They asked more questions. We wrote more letters. In September of that same year, we received another letter from the Securities Exchange Commission stating that they were investigating certain certain staking offerings in the Ethereum ecosystem, including liquid staking protocols. They asked for this actually came in the form of a subpoena eventually, but they asked for various documents, asking all sorts of questions about basically third parties. This is very common practice for the Division of Enforcement while they're investigating a subject matter area. The attention, much like it happened in the MetaMask context, started to turn to us. During this time, we have retained very expensive counsel as a go-between and to help us organize. It was not until 2023, however, that we started to get subpoenas that were titled Ethereum 2.0. We asked for the basis of these subpoenas, and they produced to us what we've recently disclosed based on the acquiescence of the SEC, a formal order of investigation. That formal order of investigation which was initially approved by the Division of Enforcement in March of 2023, and then formally accepted by the Commission itself by vote in April of 2023, states essentially the Division of Enforcement is charged with investigating the sale of crypto asset securities, including Ethereum. Now, you know, at this time, the regulatory status of basically any token, separate and apart from Bitcoin, was not something the SEC expressed a view on publicly. Any response was essentially word salad, facts and circumstances, more word salad. And that has continued largely until this day, as you all probably have observed. So we received this formal order of investigation, sworn Scout's honor to secrecy that we would not, in order to receive a copy, tell anybody about its existence or its contents. We received a number of subpoenas over the course of the following months, comprising 24 or so requests, asking a lot about the development of the Ethereum protocol itself, especially around technical upgrades relating to the move of Ethereum from proof of work to proof of stake. We cooperated at great expense, and throughout which there was great internal debate as to the proper way to proceed. But we were very confident as to the legal status of all of these offerings and the chain itself. And so we thought, what better than some light and some education to help set things straight? We had some inkling that was wide-eyed optimism and would ultimately be proven ineffectual, and lo and behold, that's what we have at our doorstep. But we get to the point where it's now 2024, and the pace of investigation into Ethereum, the protocol, starts to accelerate and accelerate meaningfully. Note that this happens after the fight on the Bitcoin ETF, the eventual exchange-traded products hit the market, and the Bitcoin price skyrockets, and the money flowing into the Bitcoin ecosystem, especially from the United States, accelerates. And then weeks and months after that, the investigation into Ethereum, I'm not suggesting necessarily anything. I'm just talking about the timeline here. The investigation into Ethereum accelerates, including, as we come to learn, specific requests of open source developers who build on top of the Ethereum protocol and actually contribute to further upgrades to the Ethereum protocol. We were asked for lists of developers who contributed, who made GitHub commits and pull requests. Essentially, who's actually working on this global open source protocol? We want to know who they are. We want to know what they've done. We were not just asked this. Developers themselves were asked these questions via subpoena and other means. We know this because we know their lawyers who are representing them for these purposes. We know a lot of them are overseas. All of this was very concerning. We saw it accelerating. We received a Wells notice, I think the same day Uniswap got one, and nothing against Uniswap. We didn't have a ticker trade parade about it. But we knew that questions had to be called, and it was an ongoing debate internally whether to provoke some clarity here by getting impartial third parties into the conversation, i.e. the federal courts. We finally decided to do that, but we didn't want to just call the question as to whether our client-side software, which doesn't intermediate, it is a tool that users can use on their own to engage with the blockchain themselves, not through us. Whether these things are broker-dealers under the securities laws, we didn't want to just ask the question. The primary question, the most important question is Ethereum as we know it to be, meaning a programming platform that requires this commodity, this digital oil of Ether to actually work for the user? to process transactions. Is it that, or is it just, as the SEC would like to frame it, an investment scheme? That case is currently pending. That is before Judge O'Connor in the Fort Worth Federal Courthouse. It is related but not consolidated with some other, at least one other case down there. So there's a growing crypto docket down there. We litigate against the General Counsel's Office of the SEC. I would expect, setting aside maybe shifting political winds, should we be under the normal SEC's order, you can expect an enforcement action from the SEC in their venue of choice, and you can probably count them on one hand, which those may be. So we may be litigating two cases for the price of two in the near future, but we will push forward with our case, and the key central question of that case is Ethereum a commodity in Texas, where we think it should be decided. A couple more thoughts on the latest apparent change in political winds. How this would affect our litigation, it's unclear. One of the reasons why we bring a case like this is to get the SEC to state a position, and one that is based in the law and explained as such, and to not operate through signaling and equivocating. So to the extent an Ethereum ETF spot product hits the market, the only way I could see that really affecting our case is if the SEC decides that showing its work and explaining itself is probably good for the market, which I think we all agree would be good for the market, and keeping things obfuscated and having the market guess continually as to what the SEC is thinking and what it may do next is actually backwards. It's the wrong policy. To the extent there is a complete change of heart, which I have absolutely no hope of being the case, maybe that impacts the need for the relief we're seeking. But it is, we embrace what appears to be happening. I will also note editorially that it's really remarkable how, for a non-political agency like the SEC, how such fundamental issues of policy certainly seem to blow in the political breeze. And I hope with new leadership that stops being the case. Happy to take your questions, but we appreciate all of your support. Please keep up to date with the litigation down in Texas. We'll try to keep the community apprised of events, and we also appreciate the actual explicit help that lots of people are coming to us and offering in terms of support in court. We appreciate it all.
Do we have any questions? Any questions? No.
Thank you all very much.
I am dead serious when I say this, Bill. You're going to have to write a book. Okay, so I mean that was an amazing story, unbelievable, and it's still playing out, and you're at the heart of it. So thanks for being here. Sure reinforces the fact that we have work to do, a lot of work to do. Okay, get back on my schedule. All right. So happy. It was actually mentioned by Bill, another project, Uniswap, that I have a good friend here, Brian Nisler, who's taken a position recently there. So Brian, you want to just tell us what you're up to and what you're doing in this new role, and feel free to share anything that's on your mind.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you. So I am Brian Nisler. For those of you who don't know, I am with the Uniswap Foundation, not to be confused with Uniswap Labs that received the Wells notice. The foundation is a governance sponsored and funded program from the Uniswap DAO. Our primary objective is to give out grants that we are funded through to the wider DeFi ecosystem and community. There are two kind of profiles I wanted to just share with each of you today in order to share for awareness. One is the latest in DeFi research, or TLDR, as is noted. There was a conference up in Colombia this past week where researchers from all across the United States and the world really presented their latest academic research papers on DeFi, really moving the space forward, we think. Our ideation of it is to come alongside researchers in the space, continue to develop these thought-provoking ideas on how to make our broad markets more efficient and safe and secure. And then the second one is our Arbitrum V4 hook incubator. For those of you that don't know, V4 of Uniswap will employ what's known as a hook. It's basically a piece of code that sits on top of a liquidity pool that allows for customization within the pool to either call out oracles, to be permissioned, to be unpermissioned, to have ZK type opportunities as well, to have TWAP or T average prices across a particular time frame, to maintain New York hours. There is really a lot of interesting implications of hook development. In order to continue this kind of process, we have started up a cohort and are continuing to accept applications for developers in this hook program. So it's the Atrium DeFi hook incubator if anyone's interested. I'm happy to take any questions about what the foundation does or my role. Cool. Thank you guys very much.
Okay, wow, what an all-star lineup. And we're going to continue that, learning about a really interesting tool that I just learned about recently. We have Oliver Sirhusen. I hope I pronounced that correctly, Oliver. He's running a project called Cryptopolis. So I'll let you take it. I'm going to mess up all the words. So please, Oliver, tell us what you're doing. Show us what you're doing. I think that people could actually use this tool right now very much.
Very good. Hi, everyone, and thanks, Paul, for having me here today. I'm Oliver Sirhusen, and I'm excited to introduce CryptoPolls to you today. So that's the name of the platform. It tracks major developments and happenings in US crypto politics in Congress. And we develop CryptoPolls to better inform crypto voters on the legislative process and to better understand the crypto sentiment views of their representatives in Congress, which also extends to candidates on your ballot in the upcoming general elections. It also facilitates in the political process as a citizen. So it helps you engaging with your representatives in Congress. And I'm going to share my screen here and pull up the website and walk you through some of those features that we have on the platform. So let me just switch over. Can you see the website? All right.
Yes, we can see it.
Very good. Awesome. So the website is cryptopolls.com. That's polls with one L. And you are greeted here by the US map that shows you the aggregated crypto sentiment views by state of your representatives in Congress. The coloring is a theme that you'll see throughout the website, where we signal anti-crypto views in purple and pro-crypto views in Bitcoin orange. And the sentiment insights section further down on the landing page provides you with aggregated data views that give you an overall sense of where we are today. If you were to take the crypto sentiment of all Congress members and throw them in a bucket, then the average sentiment would be about fairly neutral, I would say. And that's because we have many Dems that have more anti-crypto views and Republicans that tend to be more pro-crypto. We also have a more pro-crypto sentiment in the House than in the Senate overall, even though that gap actually has closed a little bit after last week's Senate view. So that was interesting to see how things have shifted a little bit. That is also on the heels of what Ron and Jake talked about earlier. CryptoPolls also keeps track of legislation, and right now we are monitoring 56 of them in total. For anyone who feels that this is a bit overwhelming, we're trying to make it as easy as possible to digest for everyone, where you can filter by chamber, for example, its impact on the crypto industry, or by the status of where it's at in the legislative process. So right now, for example, we have one bill that has passed both chambers, and we're waiting right now to see what POTUS is going to do with it. We also assign categories to each legislation to make it easier to find those bills that you actually want to dive deeper into. So, for example, CBDC is one section that we have. Let's take a look at one of those bills, 5403. That is the one that Ron referenced earlier today, which is up for debate. So here is the page how we present the crypto legislation data. Now, most people in this audience are fairly familiar with the intricacies of a given bill, especially the popular ones. But what we are trying to do with CryptoPolls is to make the legislative process just a little bit easier to follow for everyone who visits our website. And we know that not everyone has a deep attention span to spend an hour trying to understand what a bill is about. So we're giving quick hits here on our page, where you give an instant overall grasp of a bill. We have the category label that provides you with the scope of the bill, which could be multiple labels if there's overlap. We have sentiment ratings telling you whether a bill is more pro or anti-crypto, as well as an impact rating signaling how significant this bill is for the crypto industry overall. So in this case, we label it high. We also have a quick summary and as well as a short video, typically 3 to 5 minutes, which is of the bill sponsor introducing the bill. So overall, if you're a new user to it, you can literally spend 5 minutes and get a quick understanding of it. Further down, we also have more important information about the bill, such as the co-sponsors. So this is one that is heavily co-sponsored by the Republicans, as well as the votes. And we also track votes down to chamber votes. So, the committee votes, if they are being recorded, we track that as well. Okay, so as far as our overall coverage is concerned with Congress members, we now have covered 526 of the 500 seats in Congress. So we pretty much have the crypto sentiment rating for everyone in Congress except for a handful of them. And the reason why we have such deep coverage is due to the fact that we're not just collecting crypto sentiment data on public statements, such as social media posts, article quotes, or interviews, but also on legislative actions. That includes bill sponsoring data, Congress letters on topics of crypto that Congress members send out to third parties, such as the SEC or Treasury. And we also include voting records for each politician on bills, like the one we have scheduled for later today. So if you want to know how your House representative has voted on the bill, you can check that on CryptoPolls. We'll probably have that data uploaded tomorrow morning. So how would you do that if you wanted to check that out? You can go to the landing page up here and select your congressperson directly. And if you don't know who your actual representatives in Congress are, you can actually quickly find them. So we have a feature here where you just simply need to enter your zip code. Let's use mine, and I'm in Minnesota. And you can find your representatives in Congress that covers both the Senate and the House. So we feel this is an important feature because, again, not everyone might actually know that. And you can see in my case, I'm in Minnesota District number 3. I happen to be all Democrats in the Senate. And here is an interesting one because we have Dean Phillips, who's a Democrat with a slightly pro-crypto view. So you can click on it and actually dive deeper into it, why that is. You can see sort of like the reasons for that. You see here the public statements and legislative actions. You can click on them to see the details. And it is a bit of a mixed bag where we feel he's shared some pro-crypto views, some anti-crypto views. But if you scroll further down, you can see his voting record. And here we are capturing the voting record for the 2 bills that have gone up so far for deploying American Blockchains Act and 109 as well. And he has voted both in favor of them. So that gives him essentially then the overall crypto rating that is more positive. If I wanted to engage with Dean Phillips and express my crypto views with him, you can also generate a letter through CryptoPolls, starting with a few simple clicks. First, selecting which crypto view that you want to express. You can actually add a specific legislation in here that you want to support. And then you can highlight a specific feature of crypto that you want to express in your letter too. And you quickly have a letter generated that we have accomplished with the help of AI here a little bit. So you simply now have to copy that. You can go on his website, paste that in, enter your personal detailed information, and send it off. So again, we are trying to make it as easy as possible, and really, hope that folks can take advantage of the features that we have here for the different things that you can engage in the political process with. Now, we also have the general elections covered, and that has been our latest release. We actually released that yesterday. We had our initial launch of the 2024 Election Center, where we are aiming to give users the ability to check the crypto sentiment of every candidate on your ballot running for Congress in all 50 states, 435 districts. Big goal. So let's jump right into the house, and let me show you how this looks like. In the Election Center, you can select your state. So let's start with the one that I'm living in, that is district number 3. And here we have no data yet. So the reason is what we are showing on our webpage is confirmed candidates for on the ballot for the general elections, which means we're not covering the primaries. And in Minnesota, it happens to be, I think, in mid-August when the primaries are going to conclude. So that data will be populated as soon as that is available back then. But let's pick one where we have actually some data. I think in California, it's already further along. And this is essentially how the data will be presented to you, where you can see the sentiment of the candidates on the ballot that are confirmed with their overall sentiment ratings, as well as the latest data point that we have collected around crypto. Now, what is interesting is that you don't always find examples where you have opposing views. If we go to the Senate, for example, for a minute, you can actually see, I think in Maryland, we have an interesting case that I came across. In Maryland, you have already confirmed candidates on the ballot. And you can now see that you have 3 candidates across different parties that we currently have a strongly pro-crypto rating for. And that's sort of like a message that I want to leave you with today as I'm concluding my demo here. What we are seeing early on, we've been collecting data on candidates that are non-incumbents for about a month or so, and we've collected data for about 80 to 100 candidates or so. What we are seeing overwhelmingly so far is that in this candidate pool, and that is across party lines, we are actually seeing a much more broader support for pro-crypto policy views than what you're currently seeing in Congress. And I think that is, if that trend holds, it's certainly something very positive, something that makes me hopeful that we have maybe a more crypto-friendly Congress in the next term. But that's definitely something that we're seeing early on. And this concludes the demo that I've done here. I yield back my time back to Chairman Brickner.
That was remarkable, I must say. I mean, truly a full-featured platform. I'm very impressed. So how many Bitcoin is that going to cost me to get into that system?
It doesn't cost you anything. It's a public good available to everyone. So you go to cryptopolls.com.
That is truly amazing. I just have one feature recommendation, or that part where you have to select either pro or anti-crypto before you give recommendations to I think if they select anti-crypto, you need to immediately redirect them to like some appropriate crypto meme site. Okay. So please work on that, because we don't want any anti-crypto people out there. That was fantastic, Oliver. Seriously. Thank you so much. I really loved it.
Thank you.
Okay, here we go. This is the last one we have up for the day, and I want to welcome Mike Orcutt from Project Glitch. Mike, if you don't mind coming on up. So if you haven't seen it, Project Glitch he's going to tell you about it, but I have seen it, and I'm super impressed with it. I love the reporting that Mike's doing, so just give that little boost.
Thank you very much, Paul. Thanks for the opportunity to speak today. It's a great event. Hello, everyone. My name is Mike Orcutt. I'm a longtime technology journalist, and I'm a founder of Project Glitch. Do you think you could put yes. Glitch is a team of 4 journalists focused on the future of the internet. Specifically, we want to illuminate the technological innovation that's occurring within this mind-bending realm that we call crypto, and clearly explain why it matters. The first time I ever wrote about crypto was in 2013. I wrote about a cryptographic research paper that ended up sort of setting the stage for the field of blockchain analytics. A couple stories later, I realized I'd stumbled into a quite peculiar rabbit hole. 10 years later, more than 10 years later, I'm still stumbling. And one of my latest obsessions is the Tornado Cash case, which I see as a battle for the very soul of crypto. Glitch is here to help you navigate crypto's dark forest. We want to talk about advanced cryptography, privacy, layer twos, decentralized social media, fully on-chain games, DAOs, and network states, the intersection between blockchains and AI, and lots of other topics that we think that the public should be taking a lot more seriously and talking a lot more about. Since we take them seriously, we'll sound different than the traditional media. And since we're not afraid to slow down and ask uncomfortable questions about the technology and the industry, we'll sound different than most of the crypto media as well. Today, Project Glitch is just a newsletter. We send a weekly newsletter, and we're also trying to do some original reporting when we can. And we're small, but we're growing and we're getting noticed. Axios's crypto newsletter mentioned us a couple of days ago and linked to our reporting about some of the conference content last week in DC. We won't always be just a newsletter. Our goal is to inspire better conversations, and we're devoted to creating journalistic content of all kinds that helps us achieve that goal. So if you're interested in that, please subscribe, follow along, tell your friends about us. Thank you very much for the chance to speak about it.
I love that work. It's incredible. It's amazing. Just good journalism. I'm going to be there trying to figure out how I can work with you, Mike, to elevate what you're doing. So we are pretty much at time, but I want to make sure there's nobody in the room that has something pressing they'd like to mention. If just for a minute or two, we could fit that in real quick. If there's any last minute updates. Okay, please come on up. Gilberto.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much, Paul, for putting together this amazing event. As you all know, today is a great day for crypto, but also today we celebrate Bitcoin Pizza Day. So along the Pizza DAO, a lot of friends from the Washington, D.C. community, Web3DC is co-hosting the event today. We're going to have a 5:30 to 8:30. Everybody is invited. Free pizza and beer if you're 21 and over. At Mindspace, that's located at the Washington Post building. We want everybody there. So if you have questions how to get there, invitations, come see me. I'll make sure you are in the RSVP list. That's all. Good luck, everybody, today. Thank you.
I had every intention of opening this meeting by saying we're celebrating Bitcoin Pizza today. Thank you for reminding us about that. It's an important day too. You all, I so much appreciate you being here. This has been an incredible meeting. I think we've got such great content to share with the world that I'm going to do that as soon as I get back to my desk and when I leave here. You all keep up the good work. Let's celebrate, but knowing that we have to continue working and we've got a lot of work ahead of us. So everybody take care. Thank you.
Yeah, I see. I get it right.
We'll talk after Memorial.
What?
Talk after Memorial.
Yeah, or if I miss you tonight.